The divorce papers didn't land. They slapped the white tablecloth hard enough to make the crystal hum. The sound threaded through the blizzard outside the obsidian lodge like the mountain itself went, "Oof, drama." Adam didn't even blink. Typical. He studied his reflection in a soup spoon and smoothed every perfect strand into submission. That man treated apathy like high fashion. His parents sipped their overpriced Pinot with synchronized distaste. Richard set his glass down, soft clink, sharp smile. "Sign it, Jessica," Adam grinned. "Come on, love. We both know you don't fit the interface anymore." He tapped his temple, as if the world were an app he personally owned. "Obsolete model, yeah. If vanity had a cologne, he'd be drowning in it." Richard eyed my hands, scarred and calloused, mapped by sparks. "Those hands ruin the aesthetic," Susan tittered. "Oh, Richard, she can't help being practical." Translation: not their kind of beautiful. Adam leaned in, voice dripping privilege. "Take the payout, disappear, or we blacklist you." Frozen out by sunrise. The waiter slid a bill between us. 18 grand. Give or take a humiliation fee. Wine I hadn't touched. Truffle dust I hadn't ordered. A privateeroom surcharge for public cruelty. Adam chuckled. "What's wrong? Wallet heavy on pride?" His laugh rattled the glasses. I didn't flinch. That familiar stillness, the one that hits right before I pull the torch trigger, settled over me. For a heartbeat, the room shifted. The fire snapped quiet, forks hovered midair, and the waiter's eyes darted toward my jacket, something like recognition sparking. From the kitchen, metal scraped metal thensilence. I reached into my coat. Adam's grin widened. "What's that, bus fare?" Instead of cash, I set down a black slab, roughly card-sized but heavy as gilt volcanic glass rimmed in platinum. It didn't reflect the chandelier. It swallowed it. The dull thud it made sounded final, like a judge ending a trial nobody knew had begun. The waiter's hand froze. He pressed a trembling finger to his earpiece. "Code black, table 1. Chairs stopped. Voices vanished. Even the storm listened. Adam frowned. "What the hell does that mean?" The waiter didn't answer. He just stared, as though he'd finally recognized the kind of woman who doesn't need permission to end a war. "They thought they could erase me. Turn zuti bruth mastisticary t'other kingdom." The kitchen doors didn't burst with noise, they burst with gravity. Mr. Renshaw, general manager of the Obsidian Lodge, strode and flanked by 2 silent security officers. The man looked carved from etiquette and espresso. Perfect posture, eyes like blueprint paper. Richard straightened, drawing breath to spend money as a weapon. "Renshaw, finally. This woman's trying to scam us with some novelty credit card." Renshaw didn't even glance at him. His shoes whispered across marble until he stopped right in front of me. For a second, no one moved. Then he bowed. Not a polite incline, a deep, deliberate bend that flipped the room's center of gravity. You could feel the hierarchy invert like a live wire switching poles. "Miss Kincaid," he said, voice low, composed, carrying. "We weren't expecting you this season. The owner protocol has been activated." The air crystallized. Even the fire held its breath. Adam laughed once, brittle. "Miss Kincaid? Her name's Jessica." "And what do you mean, Bioner?" Renshaw raised his head, gaze precise as a scalpel. "The Onyx Key identifies the owner of the Obsidian Lodge and the mountain it sits on. You're currently dining as her guest." Silence dropped heavy, compressing the air. The chandelier flickered, as if trying to retreat into itself. I leaned back, crossing my arms. The room seemed to shrink, the walls suddenly aware of who paid their heating bill. "You wanted to blacklist me?" I said, eyes on Richard. "You can't blacklist the landlord." Susan's glass cracked against the table. Richard froze mid-swallow. Adam's smirk disintegrated, leaving that pale look people get when elevator cables snap. "Run the charge," I told the waiter gently. He nodded, still trembling, and carried the slab away like unstable tech. Every eye followed, watching their lineage slide to the bottom margin of its own spreadsheet. Adam still had the pen in his hand. It shook slightly. "Jess, what is this?" he whispered, as if ink might rescue him. I smiled the way welders smile at brittle steel. "It's leverage. They thought the bill was for dinner. They're about to find out it's for disrespect." They left me alone in the private dining room for a minute after the Onyx Key cleared. The walls are still trying to remember who they work for now. I looked down at my hands. People like Adam called them ugly, too scored, too strong, but scars are receipts. Each one says, I built something. I survived heat. Renshaw re-entered quietly. Your suite is being prepared, Miss Kincaid. I nodded. Send them dessert. Something bitter. He allowed himself the smallest smile. Of course. When the doors closed, I finally exhaled. The anger was gone. What remained was focus, the clean, bright silence that comes after a weld cools. I've spent years shaping lifeless steel into balance. You learn fast. Fire tells the truth. Weak metal warps. Strong metal sings. People are no different. Adam expanded under praise but crumpled under pressure. Funny thing, I once thought his world of venture cocktails and funding rounds was the top shelf. Turns out being real metal in a room full of chrome makes you priceless. The card thingy wasn't my secret. It was my backup plan. Aunt Catherine gave it to me on my 25th birthday in a velvet-lined box sturdy enough to survive an airstrike. She ran an empire out of an aircraft hangar and thought sentimentality was an inefficient form of lying. Her only advice: dignity is the one asset you can't liquidate. This card's your breaker bar. When the bolts are rusted tight, use it. I locked it away because I wanted merit, not inheritance. I wanted burns that meant something. Even tonight, I didn't plan to use it until Adam turned ownership into a weapon. He wasn't wrong about one thing. Ownership is power. He just forgot who held the torch first. By dawn, the decision was already made. The next morning, Denver. The conclavatress tower glittered in steel and glass, my last name welded across its face. Inside waited Sarah, lawyer, caffeine incarnate, predator in heels. She didn't serve sympathy, only espresso and data. Hope you slept, Jess, she said, tapping her tablet. We've been digging. Across the marble wall flickered a spreadsheet in red. The true family portrait of the Hargroves, their empire hemorrhaging ink. They thought their wealth was armor. Turns out it's a death sentence written in neon. Sarah didn't bother with greetings. She stabbed a key on the tablet and the conference room lights dimmed automatically. Numbers bled across the wall, pulsing crimson. Welcome to your in-laws, she said. Financial edition. Columns of red poured down like stock market rain. Every asset, every shell company, every offshore innovation fund all cracked open and hemorrhaging. Richard first, she continued. Country club dues 3 months over. The Aspen vacation home refinanced. Twice. Jewelry's insured for triple value and borrowed against. He's been juggling debt like it's CrossFit. I studied the glow on her face. Sarah lived for this. Destruction expressed as data visualization. And Adam? I asked, though my bones already knew. Sarah swiped again. Adam's section filled the wall. Crypto, meme stocks, margin calls, each loss patched with a higher interest loan. He's been floating on investor fumes since last year. Red lines connected accounts like veins trying to find a pulse. Then, she said, voice flattening, there's this file. Projectheus spelled with an X-ray, because spelling is apparently for peasants. She projected an agreement. My stomach tightened. 4.8 million, she said. Private equity loan. Collateral. Your IP portfolio. Sculptures, sketches, trademark, artist's name. I stared at my forged signature to perfect, identical down to a stray pen tremor. I didn't sign that, I know, she replied. Timestamp puts him in Denver while you were at that Seattle gallery. Digital forgery. The room felt smaller. The air had a static hiss, like the mountain storm had followed me south. Sarah kept talking, voice precise. This isn't divorce anymore, Jess. It's felony territory. Forge, defraud, repeat, that's grand larceny. We'll freeze his accounts, seize the house, file charges before lunch. I looked at the swirling red data. It resembled veins feeding one dying heart. I should have felt vindicated. Instead, I felt the weight of waste, what he'd done not just to me, but to the idea of building anything real. Do it, I said. My voice came out steadier than I felt. Freeze everything, Sarah nodded, already dialing the DAW. Her perfume was still caffeine and victory. You ever notice, I murmured, how people like them measure power in numbers, but never know what the numbers mean? She gave the faintest grin. They're about to learn. Interest compounds. So does vengeance. They built an empire on borrowed time. I just called in the loan. 3 days later, the anger had cooled to data. The courthouse conference room smelled of lemon polish and recycled ambition. Adam sat across from me, his parents flanking him like bankrupt bookends. Their lawyer looked like the ghost of paperwork, pale, sleepless, apologetic. They weren't prepared for the silence. I'd learned to weaponize it. He tried for confidence and missed by a mile. We're claiming she acted in bad faith, his lawyer began. She concealed, Sarah cut in, voice crisp enough to file patents. The consatrist is a generation-skipping instrument created years before the marriage, not marital property. Her smile was pure litigation caffeine. Richard slammed his palm down. Entrapment. She sat at our table pretending to be poor. I met his eyes. You looked at my hands and thought poverty was default. That's not deception, Richard. That's your settings. He froze, midrant. The pen in his fingers clicked once, twice, then nothing. Adam leaned forward, a shredded echo of his old smirk. I want my share of the house, he said. I'm used to a certain lifestyle. And alimony, obviously. Sarah didn't sigh. She shimmered menace. Glad you brought up assets, she said, sliding a folder across the table. Projectius ring any bells? Color drained from his face as he read his own forged signature. Sarah's voice stayed conversational. Forgery, fraud, failure to disclose debt under a transparency clause. The loan defaults next week. You may keep any portion of that 4-pointy exemptional you can pry from the void. Richard grabbed the document, skimmed, and blanched. You can't pin this on him, he hissed. Already pinned, Sarah said flatly. District attorney has the file. Cross your fingers for probation. The room sagged into silence. My chair scraped once as I stood. Sit down, Richard barked, his old reflex showing teeth. I didn't even raise my voice. No, it carried more gravity than a shout. Adam reached out, desperate. Jess, please. We can fix. No, I said, slipping my coat on. You can't fix corrosion with excuses. You replaced the part. 2 uniformed officers waited by the door. Timing, as always, impeccable. They forged my name into debt. Now they get to sign their own downfall. 6 months later, the mountain finally thawed. Snowmelt carved bright seams through the granite like glowing weld lines, sealing the earth back together. The Obsidian Lodge breathed differently now, the air trading privilege for spruce and hot metal from the new sculpture garden on the southern terrace. Visitors could hear the hiss of torches beside the fireplace, soundtrack of honesty. We'd had our best quarter in a decade. Renshaw still ran operations like a military ballet, precision and tact, but now the staff laughed more. They'd realized fear isn't efficiency. I visited the foundry at dawn each morning. The place felt sacred. Carbon, heat, second chances. Steel doesn't resent being reshaped. It just needs more fire. I understood that now. The Hargroves? Gravity did its job. Richard and Susan filed for bankruptcy. Club memberships gone. Leases repossessed. Their friends stopped answering calls. Turns out money was the only RSVP they ever needed. Adam awaits sentencing. He still calls sometimes. My assistant logs the attempt's background noise, a smoke alarm with no fire. I don't hate him. Love rusts fast. Hate corrodes slower. I prefer neither. What remains is tempered resolve. Today we launched the Iron and Grit Foundation. 50 million in seed funding for artists and tradespeople the gatekeepers tend to ignore. Welders, stonemasons, sheet metal dreamers, creators who know beauty starts dirty. We awarded the first grants this morning, and watching their faces, I realized revenge is short fuel, construction infinite combustion. At sunset, I walked through the courtyard past the statue we'd placed there. Half steel, half glass, a woman lifting a broken beam, palms proud with scars. Someone asked what it represented. Foundation, I said. The part buried deepest still holds everything up. Snowlight caught the onyx key where it hung at my throat, no longer hidden, only reflective proof. They called me dirt. Turns out dirt's where you plant the future. The onyx key still catches the light sometimes, reminding me that what looks like ruin can be the start of restoration. Every scar in this story isn't proof of damage. It's proof of design. Welcome to Evangeliary, where survival isn't the ending, it's the origin story. Subscribe to Evangelia for more stories forged from betrayal and reborn in fire. Share this episode with anyone who's walked through their own storm and come out steel.